What is the worst second-hand embarrassment you've had to suffer through? I was in a class with about 50 other people when this really quiet guy stood up and started to play Gangnam Style out of his phone and started doing the dance with a wide grin on his face. Nobody laughed, and so he sat down after about 10 seconds of singing and dancing, and the lecturer proceeded to carry on with lecture. I never thought this possible, but I'm experiencing third-hand embarrassment. In middle school, a kid decided to don his karate wear and break a brick for the talent show. This intense music starts playing, and he comes out, bows his head and HIYAA, hits the brick. It doesn't break. Tries a couple more times. It remains unperturbed. He stomps off the stage in tears. I'm sure to console him, people told him no one will remember this is 10 years. It's been more than 10 years. I still remember him as the kid who couldn't break the brick. Stuck on a cruise ship for 3 days after my friend proposed to his girlfriend on the first ducking day and she said no. That same first night she made out with some random guy in the hot tub. I'm honestly not sure how devastated my friend actually was, but it was intensified by the fact that he'd drink himself shit-faced daily by 2 p.m, which would lead to him going to beg her to get back with him. At one point she was sitting on the new guy's lap at the bar and he grabbed her hand and confessed his love for her for what must have been the 5th time in 2 days. It was a constant battle of trying to pull him away and convince him to either go to sleep or come with us to another part of the ship. He is a good friend, so I felt terrible for him cause that was super shitty on her part and tried to help him all he would allow, but it was awful to watch, and by the end of the cruise the entire boat, it seemed like, knew what had happened. When I tried to bring it up with my girlfriend, who was on the cruise with me as well, days after we got home she straight up refused to talk about it, saying that was painful enough at the time, so we never need to speak of it. Have this uncle who is extremely cheap and once took us out to dinner. After he got the bill he asks for the menu again and takes out his calculator and starts double checking the bill prices and menu prices. This goes on for 15 minutes while the waiter patiently waits next to the table. At the end he realizes he forgot his wallet and asks us to pay. Don't think I've ever tipped that generously. Airline pilot here. The captain and I had a guy from another airline riding in the jump seat between us and the cockpit of a US airline jet. The captain was a bit of a blowhard loudmouth and decided to make a comment when he saw an Air India plane. You know what I hate most about Indian women is that big red dot on their forehead. The jump seater said, "My wife is Indian," and produced a photo from his wallet of his family including his Indian wife with the bindi on her forehead. The captain only made it worse while he squirmed by asking some crap like, "Is she from Eastern India or Southern India?" Because I'm referring to the ones from. My mind was cringing so horribly I blanked out on the rest of the conversation. Recently went to a wedding where the groom had 5 or 6 different groomsmen and they all gave a speech. First few were pretty good and funny. The last guy that went tried way too hard to make it funny. He started off with some lame cliche joke about how the bachelor party was crazy and that they'd never talk about it again. He actually paused and waited for laughter and not a single person laughed out of over 150. Then his hands started shaking and he kept losing his place. I think he eventually gave up after about 2 minutes of torture and just said to the bride and groom, "It was horrific." Was at a friend's brother's 21st and was standing around talking with some other guys. On the driveway a bunch of girls were dancing to the music. It was a really chill night, but it was about to get a lot chillier. The guy next to me said to the guy on his other side, "How about the rack on that blonde chick?" Apostrophe. Other guy replied, "That's my daughter." First guy mumbled something and left at a brisk walk. 2 stand out from 1HS English class. Dude got called out by our teacher for plagiarizing while he gave a report in front of the class on a book we read. In particular, she asked what "and lay thinking" meant, and he stood there for a good 10 seconds of silence before she lectured everyone on not copying from other sources. A kid in our grade died from overdosing on drugs. He was pretty popular and his death shocked the school for a good while. Several of his closest friends were in this class. The day after his death, our teacher was out sick and we had a substitute. Naturally, she called out this guy's name during roll call. That hushed the class to the point of searing awkwardness and some girls started sobbing. I can still see the slow dawning of horror on the sub's face. When my mother yells at someone who has no control over the situation, like yelling at the cashier for not knowing the price of chopped onions off the top of his head. My sister was on a first date with some guy she met online and was nervous, so she had Miso and me meet up with them. The guy was super braggy about being able to speak German, not knowing that Miso was raised there and speaks it fluently. So Miso tries to start a conversation with him in German. The guy apparently only spoke a few words of German and left embarrassed and without any chance of a second date. Miso still feels a little guilty about it. Watching a friend be punished by their parents. It's so ducking awkward. I have a friend Jake who is partially deaf. He has hearing aids to help with that. We are cameramen and we were live streaming a college basketball game. We wear headsets to speak through the crowd, and he has to take his hearing aids out to use it. He and I were taking a break during halftime and an old man who had a bag of candy, already weird, right, walked up to us and offered it to Jake, who still had his hearing aids out. Jake accepts this as the man giving us a bag of candy, when in reality he just offered a piece to each of us. Yep, plenty weird. Jake just walked off with the candy bag, munching away, as the old man helplessly tried to follow him through the crowd yelling, no, I just meant take one. Jesus Christ, apostrophe. It was uncomfortable in so many ways. I just walked away from the situation. I was on a train going between London and Manchester, UK, and went to use the bathroom. The toilet at the end of the carriage was disabled accessible, so it had a wide curved door that automatically opened at a steady and slow pace, about 20 to 30 seconds to complete, uninterruptible, retracting in a semicircle to allow wheelchair access to the carriage. If you've traveled on these trains before, you'll know that to close a door you enter the stall, push a button to close the door, then, when it's finished closing, you press another to lock it. Someone had not told this to the lady in the loo. Just as I arrived, another person coming from the other direction pushed the outside button to open the door, and it started its inevitable arc. For at least 30 excruciating seconds, the button pusher, myself, and eventually everyone sitting in the packed commuter carriage beyond who was facing in our direction, got to see the woman bend up from the seat, reach and hop to the other side of the cubicle and desperately pummel the door close/lock buttons inside. Pants around the ankles the whole time. White bottom flashing. At a merciless pace. The door opened fully, contemplated its life, and then closed on the pitiful image within. The button pusher and I looked at each other, said nothing and went back to our seats. I'm usually the subject of first-hand embarrassment, but this time, a local radio station I listened to hosted some kind of Christmas charity event, where the DJs stood outside some kind of children's charity drive and talked about it to the people giving donations. They had been playing music in between, asking people their names and talking about how much they had given, stuff like, "Thanks to Dave from Cityville for the $300. Say hi Dave." "Dave, hi. You're welcome. Happy holidays." The cringe begins when a guy named Josh comes in to give some money to the charity. DJ, wow. Josh has given us $3,000, the most generous donation of the day. Apostrophe. Josh, yeah. Haha. I did. So how much do you have now? Apostrophe. DJ, thanks again Josh. And I think that puts us at 10,000. Apostrophe. Josh, no. Who I mean after what I gave you, how much do you have? DJ, we have 10,000 in donations. Josh, no I mean, what number did my donation put you over? Apostrophe. At this point I've gone from confusion to realizing what Josh is trying to get the DJ to say. I'm actually facepalming for him. DJ, well, before you donated we had about 8,000. Apostrophe. Josh, no, that's not what I mean. DJ, I don't quite know what you're getting at. Josh, get it? Now you have over 9,000. Apostrophe. DJ, what? Apostrophe. Josh, get it? After what I gave you, you have over 9,000. DJ, yeah, I don't. Apostrophe. DJ, like there's this show called Dragon Ball Z, and the guy in it, he says over 9,000, haha. DJ, alright, Right. Yeah. Alright then. Apostrophe. Basically, a guy donated thousands in charity over the radio just to get the DJ to say we have over 9,000. I'm pretty sure she didn't get the joke. And then he tried to explain it to her. I don't remember a lot of the details or the exact amount, but I'm pretty sure the guy donated in the thousands. Government class senior year teacher makes a comment about how we should stay off our phones in class and be careful about the things we send out. Proceeds to pull up a classmate's tweet that says something along the lines of "This teacher is so dumb. This class ducking sucks." She was on her phone so didn't see it pulled up immediately. When the whole class fell silent she finally looked up and turned bright red. The teacher kind of chuckled and continued on with the lesson. I always get this when I watch guys hit on girls unsuccessfully. One particularly painful example was a good friend of mine who is not the best when it comes to flirting. And he had just come out of an LTR, so safe to say he was rusty. At any rate, he makes a beeline toward this girl. I try to intervene and assure him that it will not work. She was seeing someone, and her friend had told me that my friend, currently making moves toward her, weirded her out a little. I pleaded and pleaded with him to just refrain from doing it, but he was having none of it, as he thought I just wanted to take a stab myself. Anyway, I watch helplessly as he moves towards her, slides up and attempts to hold her hand. She looks mildly scared. So he says to her in a fairly loud voice, "Don't worry, I'll hold you." At this point I have to look the other way as I'm actually dying of embarrassment for him. She then slowly starts moving away looking quite fearful and then briskly walks outside. He comes back over and asks if he should go for her friend instead. Just remembered another story from the same guy around the same time. This time he had managed to pull. He was cracking onto this girl and she was reciprocating, putting her hands on his leg, giving him the occasional kiss. Anyway, he gets incredibly smashed and we are walking with a group of friends to another bar. The woman in question is walking behind us with her friend. He says incredibly loudly, "I am so and there bro 10/10ths easy." She is obviously well within earshot. We arrive at the next bar and she comes up to him and says, "Were you talking about me?" I have never seen someone look so on the spot. He stammers some answer about not meaning it like it sounded. At any rate, safe to say this killed the vibe for a bit. She sort of distances herself from him. Undeterred, he continues to drink and attempts to start up another conversation with her. Feeling a little bit freaked out, she asks her friends to leave. Now, they lived about 1 kilometer away from this bar. They all leave. My friend excuses himself about 10 minutes later. We all ask him not to go to this woman's house. He promises not to, and being drunk we let him go. About 20 minutes later I get a phone call from one of this girl's friends saying that my friend is drunk in their house, which was their parents' house, and is refusing to leave. Mortified, we had to go and collect him, sort of half yelling apologies at their house. Used to be a bag boy at a grocery store. One day I was bagging an older man's groceries, and the cashier begins to talk him. Cashier, in a polite voice, "Have you found everything you're looking for?" Apostrophe. Man, no response. Cashier, in a frustrated but polite voice, "Sir, have you found everything you're looking for?" Apostrophe. Man, no response. Cashier, in a patronizing and shouting tone, "Sir, have you found everything you're looking for?" Apostrophe. Man, finally acknowledging the cashier, "Hey, I'm deaf." The cashier apologized profusely, and the old man looked at her in disgust, while I did the brave thing and left to bring shopping carts back into the store. Sleeping over my friend's house in 7th grade. I was trying to sleep on the floor. However, his parents decided to have very loud, wall-rattling sex. I laid there trying to fall asleep for about 15 minutes. When a loud shriek hinted that it was over, I kinda laughed a little, and my friend, who I thought was sleeping, just says, "I'm so sorry." We awkwardly laughed about it and then went to bed. 3 women in a kitchen. One is pretty overweight and recently miscarried. I knew. The third person didn't and started asking questions about how the pregnancy was coming along. I'm peeling carrots, just dying inside. The overweight woman who miscarried informed the woman that she lost the baby a month ago. I'm a coward and just pretended to focus on the carrots. Horrible. This was my freshman year of college in 2006. One of my gen ed class requirements was a minority studies class and the only one left was women's studies. I figured it would be a perfectly okay class and it honestly was. The problem was this guy in the class named Carter. Carter was the precursor to the modern day ladies. I must apologize for my gender / look at me. I'm such a good ally to women guys. And every time he raised his hand you could see a lot of people in the room cringe. He had said something dumb and the professor had moved on to a new topic when he raised his hand again. He then said, "I just wanna apologize again for what my gender does to women." I feel like everyone in the class was staring a hole through their desk because of how utterly embarrassing this guy was. The professor said, "Okay, if that's all you wanted to say, let's move on." And oh lord, does thinking about that still makes me cringe. Oh man, I've got one. An integral part of my architecture education were what we called either critiques or juries. Basically you'd present your work in front of a group of your classmates and professors to which questions could be asked and suggestions be offered. It was an incredibly valuable part of our education as getting and offering feedback really encouraged more critical thought about what we were doing. Unfortunately it also meant that if you produced shitty work, you'd get torn to pieces. Anyways, come our final jury presentations for the semester. This one guy pins up his presentation materials and physical model and gives his presentation. It was bad. Seriously bad. Aside from only taking up a quarter of his allotted time. It looked like his presentation materials were half finished after a night of fervent scrambling to get the work done. There just wasn't enough to even start to ask questions or give suggestions to him. So everyone, trying to think of at least something productive to say, kept completely silent. It was probably only 15 seconds, but it was the absolute most awkward silence of my life. Eventually, one of the professors spoke up and said something along the lines of, "If this is the kind of work that you think is acceptable, you probably shouldn't look at continuing in this program." To which the guy just replied, "Sorry," and walked out. He didn't show up the next year. So yeah, I have never felt as awkward even in situations where I'm the subject of the awkwardness. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.